Thank you. What a great group. I'm, really excited to talk to you tonight about experiences and how you can use them to help to boost your business. So, I am Kim Clarke. I'm the Tourism Experience Development Specialist with RTO7. We do have a small group, which is awesome. So, if you want to just even raise your hand or put something in the chat, I will try and kind of follow along. If not, I have some questions that we can kind of even just brainstorm at the end, some cool ideas. So, I have a couple of videos to show you, but yeah, like experiences are awesome, and I truly feel like this is part of how the road to recovery for tourism will look like. And the great thing about experiences is, they're intended to be built for small groups. So, we have had so many restrictions on, groups of 10, social bubbles, up to 25. And, theoretically speaking, experiences work really great with small groups, and adaptability is really easy. So I'm going to tell you or talk to you about, products and experiences. And I think that term gets often interchanged. And, why I think this is, a really great way for you to consider doing something new. And I'd like to participate in experiences, obviously. So the first, I think we need to define, like for today's purpose, the difference between product and experience. And I think those two terms get interchanged quite a bit, which is fine for the most part. But when it comes to something on an experiential level for tourism, there are some slight differences. So if I was to define a product, which we have here, it is defined as a good or a service that's delivered to consumers with a limited amount of variety or differentiation. They're often based on cost-based pricing. So, your raw materials in, plus your labor, plus your markup, and you get your price. And, they could be like this delicious scone, which, has 4 basic ingredients. You can differentiate it with, different toppings, but generally speaking, you can get them pretty much anywhere. Or, a free guided tour with a docent at a museum or at a national or provincial park. Those are some of the products that we would see in experience, or sorry, products that we would see in tourism. But experience is a little bit different. And Nancy Arsenault, who's really one of the leading minds in experiential tourism in Canada, in 2004, she came up with this definition of experiential travel. So experiential travel engages visitors in a series of memorable travel activities. They're revealed over time, and they're inherently personal, make connections on an emotional, physical, spiritual, or intellectual level. So if we go back to that example of the scone that we just showed, which, you can probably pick up at any bakery across the world, how do you convert that into an experience? Well, you make it. Oh, one too far. You make it. So here we have an example of, we created a workshop, we went into the back of a kitchen, we washed our hands, we rolled up our sleeves, and, we got to learn how to make these wonderful, delicious, flaky scones. So, I mean, not only, was the opportunity to learn how to cook these, but it was the connection back to the chef that was really, really critical. So Andre invited us into his business and, had us talk to us, about his story and how did he get to where he was at and how did he come up with these delicious recipes and the fun and we had a glass of wine when we were as we were doing this. And it became really, a strong kind of emotional connection back to the area, back to the restaurant, that would continue to, be included within his, advertising and word of mouth and, strength of his consumer relationships. So, that story was really critical to us, having that emotional connection back to the area. And the other great thing about it was, so, that scone that we saw could have been a $3 scone if you just walked in and picked it up at the restaurant. But with us, Andre's story, us rolling up our sleeves and getting the opportunity to do this, it goes from a $3 scone to a $15 per person experience. So the economic viability is also much greater as well. And it's not necessarily raw materials, but it's your time that, people are paying for, that connection and that opportunity to engage with you. So I'm going to show you this video. I really hope that the sound works. And I just want you to have a look at the products that are being showcased.
My name is Danny Keene from Long Island, New York. I've been blind since birth. I guess that's why I was chosen to show the world what Quebec is like in summer. There's a reason why people close their eyes when they kiss, when they cry, and when they pray. Because the most essential things in life must be filled with our hearts.
So this video, which I love, tells this amazing story. No, sorry, Danny. Tells this amazing story of, a person who experiences Quebec. And if you strip back the emotion, because I've watched this now, a million times, and it really does touch me. What is so great about it is, the products that they're showcasing, kayaking and beaches and culinary and music, and amusement parks. These are things that we have everywhere, and we have them in Wasaga Beach. It's just the connection and the story that Danny tells is a really powerful one. And that, that idea of storytelling is so critical to the engagement of the experience and that connection back to one another. So I used to be the tourism manager, and I don't always show competing beaches, don't worry. But I was tourism manager in Bruce County before I took the job at RTO7, and we were looking for like, how do we get people up off the beach? Because when you're on the beach, you're not spending money, and besides maybe some French fries and hamburgers, which is fantastic. However, there's so much more to do, and there's so much more to explore. So we wanted to talk to the people that were the businesses and the staff, frontline staff that were working there. So I went and I would go and talk to the kids that would clean the bathrooms and the garbages every year. Honestly, the shittiest jobs on the face of the planet, unless nobody gives you credit unless you're not doing it, and then people are yelling at you. So I wanted to say, okay, like, what are people asking for? You're here all the time. You're listening to conversations. What's going on? What are people asking for? And they looked at me and they said, people want to know where the showers are, so they can go wash off the salt water. And I paused. I was like, but it's Lake Huron. It's a Great Lake. It's fresh water. And I stopped and I thought about it. And I was like, whoa, okay, let's just kind of peel this back. And who are the people who are coming to Sauble Beach? Well, it's new Canadians. It's people who've never been here. They're exploring their new country. This is their new backyard. And, unless you're from the Great Lakes Basin, when have you ever seen an expanse of water like Lake Huron and Georgian Bay that you cannot see the other side that is salt, that is fresh water? Nowhere else in the world does that happen. And we take it for granted because that's the things that we see every day. And the things that we have to do and the things that we do every day are special. But we might not see that anymore because we've become immune to it. We see it every day. But to somebody new, somebody different, and if you're going and exploring, curiosity is a wonderful thing. But, the idea of experiences are you can showcase what you do to somebody who might not have ever done that before. So take me into your world and then bring me back to mine with a new appreciation. This is what experiences can do. And it's a really wonderful thing. So if we think about, why this is happening and how, and, you might be a small business owner, but I'm going to tell you, I've been doing this at RTO7 now for 6 years, and there are businesses, large and small, that have continued to do this and done it successfully. And it's been great. And each of these experiences will have touched on one of 4 elements: nature, art, culture, or culinary. And every experience does. And if you go back to that definition of experiential tourism, it's hard to get the taste element in there without culinary. And a little taste of place can go a long way, which is pretty awesome. But why should you do this? Why is this important? Well, I think there are really 5 benefits to experiential tourism for businesses and the community alike. So first of all, it will engage in non-traditional tourism businesses and people within the community. And that, really gives you some insight and some flavor into the community that's authentic. And authentic travel is really something that people are looking for. And especially because they've been pent up in their houses for the last year and a half, they want to do something different. So here, and again, back to that story. So here we have a picture of a local maple syrup farm over in Springwater Township. And we thought, how do we tell Tim's story about the maple syrup that's a little bit different? And what we discovered was Tim sustains his livelihood from the forest, not only from maple syrup production, but from the entire life cycle of the tree. So from, sap production to harvesting with a zero waste philosophy. And he uses his neighbors. This is Andrew, who lives down the road and homeschools his 5 boys before we all had to do it ourselves. And, really Tim's story is different than the maple syrup producer down the road. It's very Canadian, it's very authentic, and he does a really cool, great job of things. The second great thing about experiences is it creates an opportunity for you to layer them into your existing offerings. So there are very few businesses that their entire product develop or product line are experiences, but there gives you, the opportunity to add them in to whatever you're doing. So we went down to Dickey Bee Honey, which is down by Cookstown, and they sell amazing honeycomb and honey and candles and beekeeping products, but we created an opportunity of learning about bees and learning how we're extracting honey and making beeswax candles and taking some honey home ourselves. So it wasn't something that was going to be offered every day, but it was something at a different price point that was available to their guests. And you could sign up and go as a group and learn all about what it's like to work in an apiary, which is kind of cool. So I like to call this depth of product. The third benefit is new and creative use of your existing infrastructure. And by no means, I mean, especially now when things are so tight and you might have been closed for such a long time, going out and purchasing new equipment might not be where you want to go. But the Wine Marsh, had this idea that they wanted to create an amazing experience in the marsh, and they had wanted to have these clear kayaks and paddle all the way through it and have a dinner on their boardwalk. The problem was they didn't have any money to buy the kayaks to start with. So I went out and I asked a lot of questions. I'm like a 2-year-old. Why? What's this? And, I saw that they had these Voyageur canoes. And so, I started to ask their executive director at the time, what do you do? What do you use these for? Like, you already have some boats. Why do you need new ones? And she's like, oh no, we just, you can rent it for $8 and you can go paddle during the day around the marsh and then you come back. And so as we were thinking and walking, like, well, what about night? Like, you guys have so much wildlife here. Could you paddle these at night? And she thought about it and she's like, yeah, we probably could. So we created this amazing experience where you get in a Voyageur canoe and you paddle through the marsh, but at nighttime. So seeing totally different animals and still hearing the different sounds of the marsh at night when the nocturnal animals come alive. And they use this as one of their fundraisers. And so instead of renting the boat for $8 per person during the day, it became a $45 per person experience at night and sells out every single time they do it, which is amazing. And they didn't have to purchase a thing. It was fantastic. The fourth thing is that, experiences can be created in a different time of year when you're traditionally slower. And, knowing that, in Sable Beach, sometimes I'm sure people joke that, as soon as Labor Day comes around, people, batten up the windows and it's like a hurricane's coming through and everybody leaves. And it's nice and quiet, which I'm sure the residents really love. But, there's an opportunity to there's great things to do in different seasons there as well. You're an amazing 4-season destination. And so the opportunity to engage with fewer people at a more intimate level can happen in the spring, fall, or winter. And so, one of the apple orchards over by Clarksburg, and she's a photographer, and they're run off their feet in the fall during the harvest, but she had some time in the spring. And so she decided to come up with this opportunity to create a photography workshop for people in the spring. And it's also in the evening. So a different time of day is also a benefit and can help to encourage overnight visitation as well. So that will help, again, with your hoteliers, your accommodation partners, restaurants and that sort of thing, increasing the yield of the visitor while they're here. So we're not dealing with more people, we're dealing with fewer people, but higher economic yield per person, which is really great. And the fifth reason is really around this whole idea of sustainability. And my prediction is it's going to be a really, really busy summer again. I've already seen some stuff about, garbage and traffic, and the park is going to be free from Monday to Thursday this week. This is going to be something that we need to watch. And the sustainability of tourism is really important. We have such a tight eye on resident sentiment right now because the residents are such critical component in the fabric of your community. And so when we're looking at developing new tourism assets, it's really critical to look at the social, financial, and environmental sustainability of tourism as as we're continuing to develop it. So I'm going to show you this video. If my dog will be quiet, then maybe you'll be able to hear it.
International tourism is rising and fast. In 2018, arrivals reached 1.4 billion. While tourism can bring economic development and other benefits, it also brings a range of hidden costs. Wherever it exists, tourism places a visible burden on destinations. On the face of it, tourism pays its way. Tourists spend their money on local services, and businesses pay local taxes and utility bills. But many costs are not accounted for, such as the cost to upgrade infrastructure beyond resident needs to meet tourism demand, the cost to manage and protect public spaces and natural habitats, the cost of increased exposure to climate change risks, and the cost to locals of rising house and land prices driven by the demand from tourism. Either residents are left to pick up the tab, or it's just not paid, leaving the environment and other public assets to suffer. When visitor numbers are low, the invisible burden goes largely unnoticed. But as tourism grows, every new visitor brings unanticipated costs to the destination. As the invisible burden escalates, destinations become spoiled and residents protest or are forced to leave. Failing to account for tourism's invisible burden puts fragile ecosystems, cultural wonders, and community life at risk. This puts tourism on a weak foundation that could crack under its own weight. But it doesn't have to be this way. Destinations need our attention and resources. Dynamic leadership, new talent, investment platforms, and analysis of the invisible burden will benefit visitors and residents alike, now and for generations to come. Find out more by reading the report at invisibleburden.org.
So this is something that, we're really cautious of and conscious of, and it's such a critical element. And I'm sure that some of those things, you guys are, seeing you kind of nod. The cost of housing, the infrastructure costs, dealing with increased traffic and visitation are all some of these things that we need to think about as we're starting to develop our tourism assets. But, so I think that experiences, give you the opportunity to do that. And the picture that I had shown was of they're called Eco Adventures. They're part of the Bruce Peninsula Biosphere Association, and they help to showcase opportunities and educate people about why that's such, the Bruce Peninsula is such a special place. And that is, I think, a really great way to, again, include that in some of the things that we're doing in Wasaga Beach as well, because we also know that experiences psychologically, and we know that there's been so much emphasis on mental health, can really help, are good for your psyche. So this whole idea of, purchasing things, and even though, I have a really good relationship with my FedEx guy, things we get sick of and tired, but experiences are fleeting, and the memories, the positive memories and the anticipation, those are really great things for our own mental health. So continuing to, encourage people to do that. And I like to give experiences as gifts these days instead of things. Nobody wants more stuff in their house, including me. So I think it's really great, but we also can see on the other side of things that this is something that visitors are really starting to look for. So this study is a little bit older, but even in 2017 and 2018, we were seeing that affluent travelers would rather spend money on tours or activities than they would on a nicer hotel room. So people are going, this kind of just confirms the belief that, or the suspicion that, people travel to a place to do things, to not necessarily stay in a hotel. And here's the opportunity to kind of do that. So I know I don't have a lot of time. However, I think that there, I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second, but I thought maybe we could just have a quick conversation too about, what your maybe biggest strengths are, or what you think that you have to offer to a visitor that is maybe a little bit special and unique and showcases the community and helps with sustainability and tourism. And experiences don't have to be on your own. a lot of the time they're in partnership with other people. So, maybe, Sylvia, I think you would be a great facilitator, or, a great, I would say, a storyteller. Is there an opportunity to partner, with the town for at some town facilities to animate some of those spaces? So I think there's some really great things that can happen that way. So in our remaining time, I'm wondering if we can all just come off mute and share some of our ideas that you might have. And I mean, there's no bad idea out there. So I don't know. So, do you want to start?
Yeah, sorry, I'll start because this is very prevalent to this past weekend. So I own a legal bed and breakfast in the area also. And I had my first women's retreat, a wellness retreat. So it was fabulous. It was only 8 of us because we tried to keep the group small. We had rapid COVID tests for everyone before they came in. Most of the people had already been all vaccinated, fully vaccinated. We had a chef come in and cook dinner for us on the Saturday night. We did some yoga. I had a yoga instructor. We had Zumba lessons. We did meditation. We went on a hike at Pretty River, which was absolutely gorgeous. So we did a lot of experiential things, and I totally agree. People are so longing for that, just togetherness and experiencing different things, just to get out and do things. And it doesn't have to be anything extravagant and spending a lot of money. It's local. It's about, I was doing some arts and crafts. We did vision boards together, and we did a lot of just activities within the area. And we were trying to get to find somewhere we could do horseback riding, or we even had a masseuse come in. So a local masseuse came in and did massages for us. And so I totally am on board with what you're saying, and am so excited that you're promoting that.
Awesome. No, that's fantastic. That sounds like an amazing weekend. Like, when can I go?
well, I'll let you know when the next one is.
Absolutely. That sounds fantastic.
We're looking for venues to partner with, for sure.
Oh, I probably have some ideas. We should.
Okay, great.
But I think that's fantastic. You using some other facilitators and other businesses, right? Like, we're all helping each other out here. And, part of the philosophy of this too is that we pay the businesses the value that they anticipate. And one of the trickiest things in this whole process is pricing. And we often undervalue our experiences. And I think that, underpricing is worse than overpricing.
I agree.
Yeah,
it's harder to recover. I think we're getting kicked out.
Oh no, we're getting kicked out. Thank you so much. That was so good. I feel like we could talk about this all night. Okay, I'm going to stand up and look alive, and I'll see you in the main room.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.